Welcome to the Voices of Business, a Santa Clarita Valley Chamber of Commerce podcast. Nice to be with you. I am your host, Corey Nathan, and I am so glad that my pal, my co-host, my partner in commerce, Joshua Maddux, decided to put off his voyage of the 7 seas so he can join us again today. No time travel, no going to the center of the earth, no going to Mars. But this is where Joshua and I and our wonderful guests talk about business in the Santa Clarita Valley. And actually, we talk about business all over the country, but a lot of business owners and business leaders and other community leaders we'll be speaking with will be from right here in our hometown of Santa Clarita Valley. Sometimes we don't stick to business. We talk about leadership and management and life and anything else where the spirit takes us. Remember to subscribe if you haven't already. Tell a friend, give us a good rating, leave a review. Those reviews especially really do help. All of it actually helps to get the word out so more people can participate in these conversations like the one we're having today with David Heredia. Is that how you say your name?
Heredia.
Heredia. David?
There you go. Now you got it.
David Heredia is the founder of Heroes of Color. Joshua, David, so great to be with you. How you both doing?
Absolutely fantastic. Thank you, Corey. Thank you, Josh, for the invitation. Excited to be here.
How you doing, Joshua? It's good
Doing
to be with
good.
you again, man.
Yeah, good to have you back. I think last episode I had you stuck on the 405 freeway again, or yeah, I think there was like 2 episodes in a row you were stuck on the 405.
Okay. Still
yeah,
there.
So yeah, you're still there.
Typical.
Hey, it's LA. Like, yeah, you can be stuck on the 405 for 3 weeks. Sounds about right.
Yeah, yeah. Well, I'll let you take it away since I'm, returning from the dreaded 405. I wish I did have a time travel capsule or whatever to take me away from there, but I'll let you take it away, Joshua.
Awesome. Well, it's good to have you on, David. I as I was like going through some of your background and stuff, I was looking at sort of your background, your education, like your career trajectory and sort of where you are today. And it's a super interesting path. You grew up in New York, is that correct?
Yeah, that's correct.
And then you found art animation.
Wait. I got it. Sorry. I'm already being what my dad calls a tzitzkemacher. It's a troublemaker. Where in the city did you grow up?
Lower East Side, Manhattan.
Oh, how about that? My family landed there before part of the family moved to Brooklyn. The other part of the family moved to Newark. And so did you stay there until, you went to school or?
Yeah, so I was born and raised there up until 25 years old. And then I
wow.
moved out to Los Angeles.
Oh, okay. So like
Yeah.
Alphabet City or around there?
Lower than Alphabet City, the Ave. Yeah. So we
okay.
we were literally right at the tip of Manhattan, like right by the Manhattan Bridge.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Oh,
So
right
there's
on.
there's New York City housing projects and that right down there. That's where I grew up.
Yeah. And Manhattan is such an interesting city because like one year it could have a block could have a certain vibe. And then the
Mhm.
next year, like one developer could come in and buy everything on one block and turn it into Soho.
Yeah. Yeah. That's pretty much, you just summed up what the Lower East Side looks like right now. It's completely different.
Yeah. Well,
Wow.
that's cool. Sorry,
Good to see
Joshua.
you.
So
No,
you
you're
went,
good.
yeah.
Yeah. So from obviously growing up in New York, like you went to New York City College, and you
New York
started
City Tech.
your City Tech.
New
Got
York
it.
City.
You started pursuing advertising design and looking at visual art. What did that what inspired that? Were you an artist from a young age? What did that look like?
So, great question. I started off with a love for comic books, and that was the original desired path until I interned at Marvel in, I want to say it was about 1996. And it was a horrible experience. And that experience showed, well, it was during a time where Marvel was about to go bankrupt. Um, you know, faces in the company were not very happy. And I was walking around, super excited, talking to everybody and just basically taking the advice from my mentors at the time. Josh, you mentioned a mentor that kind of helped you in your career. Well, I had a mentor who basically told me, look, so you're in the mailroom at Marvel Comics, big deal. You're in the building. So make the most of it, you know? And so that's what I did. And when I spoke to a lot of the different artists, I got, it was like everybody was struggling. And I just had to think to myself, like, do I really want to get into this career path where everybody in here, even the top artists, are struggling? So it made me take a step back and just kind of think about the path I wanted to take. I was always into the arts, but I just thought comic books was going to be my thing until I had that experience. Then I thought, well, maybe I'll just focus on advertising. Um, and so I got into advertising with the intent that I was going to draw a lot, but it was all digital and graphic design. And it was like Pork Express back in the days. And I hated it. I couldn't stand it. But I say, you know what? I already started. Let me finish. I graduated and I got a job at one of the top advertising firms in New York, Ogilvy and Mather, and great money. I had no bills. I mean, this would be considered the American dream, except it was a nightmare for me because I didn't enjoy it. And so that again was another crossroad for me where I had to think and reevaluate. Is this what I want? Um, what I learned, what my career taught me is money isn't everything, right? We can make money doing any sort of things, but how much are you enjoying it? You know, there's a quote that I put in my signature that says, "Choose a job you love, and you'll never work a day in your life." And I stand by that because I've had so many terrible jobs that now I really appreciate working for myself. Like I really appreciate it. And even the jobs that I had that I loved, I have an appreciation for those people that I worked with and who guided me. Um, so to answer your question, yes, I was always into the arts. I got into advertising. And from those experiences, I figured, you know what? Animation seems like the route that I want to pursue. And then I did an internship at Warner Brothers in 2001, which brought me out to California for the first time. Loved the experience. And then after graduating, came back out and decided to make LA my home.
Got it. That's cool. Yeah, it's interesting to sort of see that career path and, you know, finding the elements that you do like of a job and the elements that you don't like of a job.
Yeah.
And just sort of crafting that and what your career trajectory is from there.
For sure.
You went on to get a few additional degrees, BFA in animation and a master's in motion media design. And then as
Actually, I dropped out of SCAD, so I didn't finish.
Oh, okay. Got it.
Yeah. So, while I was at SCAD, I was a 2-year program. I finished the first year, and the following year, I ended up getting a book deal with Scholastic. And it just seemed like all these great things were happening. And I sort of had to, again, make a decision. Do I want to continue with education or do I want to kind of pursue this book thing? The book thing happened completely by mistake. It wasn't planned. But I saw a great opportunity. So I didn't want to damage my 4.0 score that I had at the school. So I just took a leave of absence. But then I just never went back.
How did you get the book deal? How did that come about?
So, my mentor, Gerald Tratavian, who is the founder of Year Up, he was invited to a conference in LA called PTOW, PTTOW. And he just gave me a call. I was like, yo, come on down. I don't want to go by myself. So I went and I just kind of browsing through the conference. There was a breakout session on spoken word. I'm not a poet. I'm not a spoken word artist. I just thought it'd be fun to join. But the woman would not let me in the class because I wasn't a registered attendee. I was just a guest. So, I was like trying to sweet talk her, trying to find a way to get into class. And so when she wasn't looking and somebody had asked her a question, I just snuck in and sat down and just did what everybody else was doing, grabbed a snack and just acted like I belonged there. So when the workshop began, um, they asked everybody to write a poem on a business idea or a project that they're working on that is really impactful. So at this point, this was 2016. I
Oh.
had just started Heroes of Color, and I decided to write a poem on my company. So Everybody finished writing their poem. The moderator said, We need a volunteer. Somebody come up." So I went up, read my poem. Long story short, one of the people in the audience was the CEO of the RED organization, RED,
Mm.
the one with, I think that was Bono.
Spe Wasn't Spielberg involved with that? Am I
I
right? Am I thinking
I
of the
don't
right?
Yeah.
Well, I know it was like, The Gap got involved with them, or
Yeah.
they, inspired. So they had this advertising campaign where the word ended in RED. And so they just had everybody selling products in red. So anyway, her name was Deb Dugan. She came up to me and she said, "Look, I loved your poem. It was awesome." And we just started chit chatting. And then I gave her my business card. We exchanged business cards. And I don't have the one that I gave to her, but I had like a cartoon character on the card. And she was like, "Oh my God, this is amazing. A good friend of mine works at Scholastic. I think she'd love to, maybe talk to you." She's like, "Are you working on a book idea? Because this looks like a children's book." And of course, I wasn't, but, seeing an opportunity, I was like, "Yeah, actually, I'm working on a manuscript right now." Um,
Yes, I am.
I am, now that you mention it. So she's like, "Great, send me the manuscript tomorrow and I'll send it over to my contact at Scholastic." So I was like, "Okay, cool." I didn't think anything of it. So, but when I got home, I looked up her contact and it turned out it was the VP of Scholastic. So I was like, "Holy smokes." So I'd better come correct. So I came up with an idea, pitched it to him. She rejected it. So yeah. So that was 2016. But what happened was I believe so strongly in this idea. Even though I came up with it in like 30 minutes,
Yeah.
I looked at it and I was like, this is actually not a bad idea for a children's book. So I kept working on it. I kept developing it and I kept looking for opportunities where I can talk about this book. And my opportunity came in 2018 when in New York, the Schomburg Center had what they had this thing, the Black Comic Book Convention. It was new; they were just kind of launching it, and so I had gone the year before as an attendee. I'm sorry, as a vendor, and so 2018, I was like, "Look, I want to go again, but this time, can you give me 45 minutes on the stage? I want to present." And, they're like, "We cannot guarantee you anything. We're not paying for your plane ticket. We're not putting you in a hotel. It's completely on you." I said, "I don't care. Just give me a stage and that's all I'll take." So they ended up giving me the stage and I got to showcase some of my animation work. I got to talk about, the importance of using art as a tool to sort of help children who feel unseen be recognized, but more so inspired to tell their stories through art. So, I mean, Corey, it was amazing. I mean, literally when I walked right off the stage, Channel 11 was like, "Hey, I need to interview you." New York Times is like, "Hey, I want to interview you." NPR, "Hey, we want to interview you." So I got all this publicity. And mind you, when I was on stage, everybody was wearing like shirts and ties and suits. I get on stage with a t-shirt wearing the characters from my children's book.
Right.
And afterwards, I call my mentor and I'm like, "What do I do now? Got all this great publicity. What do I do?" He said, "Call Scholastic. Don't rub it in their face, but very professionally rub it in their face. You know, How you doing? Hope you're well. Just wanted to let you know what I've been up to." And boom, send the links. So I sent it to him. And I kid you not, the response, she couldn't respond fast enough. She responded right away. And she was like, "Oh my God, that shirt that you had was adorable with those characters. We should talk about a book idea. Do you have any new ideas?" So I was like, "Well, I have one." So I send her the exact same manuscript. I kid you not. I didn't change a thing that I sent to her in 2016. Now it looked appealing. So now they gave me an offer. They gave me the deal. Um, but even that process was something that at the time when they sent me the offer, I was working at DC Comics in the toy department. So I was designing the boxes where the toy packaging. Man, I love that job. And that was my last official job, like working for somebody, because Heroes of Color it started off really, really well because I did a project with a company called Pearson. And they actually were they are the reason why currently exist today. And I'll explain that. They were the ones that taught me the importance of how you include different cultures, and messaging through education. So it's not like all the way in your face, but they were teaching Common Core math, writing, reading, like all these concepts that were new, and kids just they didn't get it. Adults either. So through animation, we were able to explain it. And it was the first time that I was actually able to tell a client, listen, we should have a more diverse cast of cartoon characters. You know what I mean? Like, and let's not be stereotypical about this. Let's not make the black kid into sports. Let's not make the Asian kid a math genius. Like, let's switch it up. You know. So I found my voice. I found that I was able to advocate for myself to a client that, this was a six-figure client. The first time I ever made six figures was when I started working for myself. And just I went through this transformation when I started doing this work for Pearson. And in 20 this was 2012 up until 2015 when they said, "Okay, project is over, you're done." And I wasn't prepared for that. I had become complacent all those years, so I stopped looking for any other opportunities. So when it ended, I was like, "Uh-oh, now what do I do?" I had to let go of like 6 people, and I was struggling. It was tough. So that's why I started looking for work again. And when I got to work at DC, I was like, "I really enjoy this work and I really enjoy the people, but I think I enjoy telling my own stories more." I just didn't know how to like make that transition. So when Scholastic came to me and said, "We want to give you an offer," I was like, "Look, I've been screwed so many times before. I'm getting a lawyer." And I got a lawyer to look at the contract, and they basically said, "Scholastic wants ownership of everything." So
Mm,
he's like, "I can rewrite this contract, but it might be faster and cheaper if you just tell Scholastic what you are not willing to give them, and basically, just be upfront. Tell them what you're going to give them and what you're not willing to give up." So I thought about this. I called Scholastic and I said, um, "I can only give you publishing rights," which makes sense because you're publishing my book. "But I cannot give you animation rights. I cannot give you film rights. I cannot give you rights to my name. I cannot give you the right." I just went down the list. While I was at it, I just figured, well, shoot, let me go all the way. I was like, "I think your royalty offer is offensive. I want double. Um, and your advance is also low. I want triple." So I just went all in. You know what I mean? And she told me, "I can tell you with honesty, nobody's ever heard of you. You're unknown. There's very little chance, if any, that we're going to agree to these terms." I was like, "Well, these are my terms." My confidence came from the fact that I was working at DC Comics and I loved that job. So I felt like I had a sense of worth and value. So I wasn't scared. If I wasn't working at DC, I probably would have signed that contract without
mm,
hesitation. But there's something that happens when you feel like you're in a position of power. And the best time to negotiate a contract is when you have money in your bank or you have some sort of security that you know that if this deal doesn't go through, I'm still going to be okay.
right.
So, conversation ended. I didn't hear from her for like a month. And then I started sweating because I was like, damn, I blew it, you know? But then she calls me back, Corey and Josh, and she tells me, "Before I tell you what we decided on, let me just say this to you. 9 times out of 10, people do not go through what you went through in terms of actually getting a lawyer, actually sticking up for yourself, and finding terms that work for you. Most people just sign the contract." She goes, "Because of that, I have the utmost respect for you. Um, we will accept your offer. We'll raise the royalty amount. We can't raise the advance that much more, but we can raise it. Um, Close the deal." And I walked away thinking like, damn, that was a major win. And you said earlier, Josh, that that was one of the questions about, what is a major win for you? That was it because In her eyes, I was unknown. I was not famous. I did not have a bestseller or anything like that. And I still got my way. So that experience really, really led to all of what has happened as a result of that. I feel like as artists, we're desperate and we'll take whatever anybody gives us when we're freelancing. And even if the terms are such that are just like, this is crazy, I would never do this, but I really need the money. So we compromise so much just for a paycheck. But when you do it once, when you stick up for yourself and you say, you know what? I don't accept these terms. Yeah, I need the money, but not that bad that I'm willing to compromise my values for it.
Well,
Some
and that's
transformation
something.
happens.
Yeah, and that's something I think so many people, like, being an agency, like, we see that a little bit with, potential clients. Like, there's this opportunity cost.
Mhm.
Like, if I take on that project, yes, it's money in the bank, but it's X number of hours committed. Is that, and, what is the opportunity cost of that? Am I then giving up the ability? So if you would have signed that first contract, then, royalties would have been different, all of that. Like, now there's opportunity to do other things,
Yeah.
to move into other avenues of media and stuff as well. And I think so many business owners don't necessarily always take that time and hit the pause button and take a step back.
Yeah.
Yeah, a ton of lessons that I glean from that story. One is, the resilience that you exhibited when you were first, you get that first high when you were in that class that you like sat down, had a snack, looked like everybody else, and then like somebody responds to your, to your work. And do you have a book deal? Yes. Are you working on a book? Yes, I am. But then to be let down and say, oh no, we can't accept that. The resilience that you kept on working on, the idea, the seed was planted in you, and the
Mhm.
resilience you showed to continue nurturing that idea, but also the persistence to circle back with those same people, as
Mhm.
well as I don't know exactly what the right word is for it, but it's like some form of Jedi mind trick diplomacy of like, this was your idea. It was a good idea. To kind of let the person off the hook from that first rejection so that it could look
Right.
like her idea. There's a lot in there. One of the things I was really curious about is the curriculum, and the subject matter has met with resistance, from the get go.
Yeah.
There's certainly been a lot of backlash in recent years, even at the legislative level. I'm wondering what kind of resistance you've faced in trying to implement programs and introduce diversity and inclusion into curriculum. What kind of obstacles you've had to overcome in doing this?
Great question. And the best way that I can phrase it is diversity and inclusion and belonging is not a position, it's not a curriculum, it's a lived experience for me. So when I walk out of my house and my kids walk out of the house, we have a completely different lived experience than other folks who don't look like us. So for me, a lot of this came out of situations that happened to my kids, situations that happened to me, and how I have had to confront it. Something happened to me the other day where um, I was ordering a meal. My family's from the Dominican Republic. We speak Spanish. So I ordered the meal in Spanish. And the woman looked at me and said, "Oh my God, you speak Spanish so well. Like I wasn't expecting that." And in the beginning, I used to get pissed off when this would happen to me, right? But now I have fun with it. So what I told her in response was, "That's funny. I was gonna say the exact same thing about you when I heard you speak English." And it's like sometimes you have to check people in ways that aren't so overt and angry, but in a way that maybe they can gain a little bit of empathy because now you've put them in your shoes. So now they're understanding how ridiculous their remarks are. It's not malicious. It's just ignorance, right? So any opportunity that I have to sort of educate people on, if you're curious about why I'm speaking this language, there are other ways that you can ask me that question without making it seem like, oh my God, your presence, the fact that you're speaking Spanish and you look the way you do, challenges my stereotype of what a Spanish speaking person should look like. And they should not look like you. So I try to invite conversations, but not everybody is ready to have those conversations. And to me, the trigger, Heroes of Color was born in 2015 because of my daughter. She was my DEI expert because it really happened when my wife, she went to work and didn't have time to do her hair. So she has an afro. My wife's Mexican, so my kids look mixed. They're gorgeous. But in the city in Santa Clarita, it was not, it's not as diverse as I thought it was. So when she went to
Santa
school,
Clarita is about as close to Iowa as we get in California.
so you know what I'm talking about.
Yeah.
So when my daughter went to school, I obviously didn't know how to braid her hair, so I just let her go with the afro, and she got so many insults that day.
Mm.
She was in kindergarten, and
Jeez.
when I went to pick her up, the teacher told me, and I don't know that my daughter really fully understood, but I understood, and I was really disappointed that this was happening in kindergarten. I couldn't blame the school because obviously these kids got this from home. Um, so I was like, damn, how do I protect as a parent? Like your number one instinct is protect your kids at all costs. So, but how do you protect them against that? You know what I mean? Like it was tough. It was challenging. This is where the idea for my children's book was actually born because I started creating these little cartoon characters of color and I would show them to my kids. And I wanted to normalize putting faces of just, regular different professions, but professionals nonetheless that were not athletes, that were not celebrities, that would spark a conversation because they'd never heard of them, you know? And the children's book was called Little Heroes of Color. So technically, when the woman asked me, Deb Dugan asked me if I had an idea for a book, and I say, yeah, I'm actually working on a manuscript, that lie came from just my data bank. I was thinking, well, what could I do as a book? So I just referenced that real quick, and that is what ended up getting published. But that was born out of my daughter's situation. Fast forward to the second grade, it happened again. Same daughter, same.
Mm. Wow.
So by this point, I started to arm her with words that she can use to deflect these comments. It's still going to hurt. There is no taking away from what that pain feels like when you're ostracized or when you're pointed out as being different and demonized for it. There are certain things that we just cannot change and we shouldn't have to. So my objective as a parent first is to make sure that my daughter and my kids, my other kids, walk with their head high. And if they walk into a room and they're the only ones that look like that, great, use it to your advantage. Now you're a leader because now everybody's looking at you. So use that and run with it. And that's a lot of the way my kids handled themselves in those situations was how I started to handle myself in those situations. So I learned a lot from my kids.
How important do you think it is for your kids, or was it for you? I don't know exactly how to describe it, but to have representation. So, in other words, I'm involved in the entertainment advertising industry. A lot of people who make the movie posters and the coming attractions that you see, and the history of the modern trailer industry and key art industry is a bunch of old white guys, right?
Mm,
Now, this generation, my generation, a half generation behind me, there's been a lot of work done, especially since George Floyd was murdered, to have representation. So to have folks that are, that look different than than the guys who were running MGM back in the days when they were doing the first modern campaigns, the Jaws campaign, the Star Wars campaign. It really does make a difference for folks. So I'm curious how important it is for you to be able to see, or for your kids to be able to see whatever it is that they want to do, whether, it's a career in science, a career in art, a career in medicine or in law, to see somebody that they can say, "Oh, now I see me in that in that
Yeah.
profession, in that trajectory." How important is that?
Well, I'll answer that with another question. Imagine if you grew up, both of you, and TV, radio, advertisements, everything that you looked at was a black person everywhere. Every now and again, you might see a white person. But if everything you saw was a black person, how important would it be for you to feel like, in order for me to get into radio or TV or advertising, I kind of would like to see if that's something that I would fit in. Like, do I fit in? Is that for me? You know what I'm saying? So I think people just, they know the importance of it, but they're in a position, and when I say they, I mean white people are in a position to dictate what comes out, the visuals that come out. You control visuals, you control a lot. You control a lot. Oprah magazine, there was an article that was, oh my goodness, it was amazing. What she did was she hired this photographer who reversed stereotypes. And there was an image of a young white girl, maybe 5 or 6 years old, looking at a wall of Barbie dolls. All of the Barbie dolls were black. There is an image of a woman getting her nails done, but the woman was Korean, and the woman that was doing her nails was a white lady. They reversed the roles of the typical maid. The maid was white, and the woman that was being, the boss, the owner of the house, the mansion, was a Latina. So it's like, if you reverse your roles, if you really try to empathize, then you'll understand. People will understand where the importance lies. And it's not just, oh, I see myself, but cultural differences and traditions. And you learn a lot from the way other people do things. It might help make your job a little bit more efficient. Um, if you really do care about creating an environment of belonging, then how do you do that? It's not just including a role. Hey, this is our DEI director. So now we're legit. Now everybody feels like they belong. It's more than that. It's conversations that keep happening. It's, when there are these big contracts that happen, people that look different are in the room. They have a say. They have control over images that come out. If you look at a lot of the hip hop, the industry, I've heard some very horrible stories about what artists were encouraged to talk about because it makes sales. Who cares if it goes against your values or not? It makes sales. So keep doing that. Keep talking about this subject. So, in answer to the question, how important is representation? Just think to yourself, how important would it have been for you growing up to see yourself included in different professions, different industries, if every image that you saw was somebody that did not look like you? You cannot tell me honestly that you will grow up feeling the exact same way that you do about yourself, about your abilities, about other people, Black, Latino, Asian, or anything else. Because that's the power of images. And that's why I love art so much. It has the power to unite. It has the power to separate. It has the power to change your thought process. It has the power to change how you treat people, just based solely on the images that you see. I've never been to California prior to the year 2000. And in my mind, the only reference point that I had were the movies and the fake images that were perpetuated to me when I think of LA. So I had this image of what LA people were like until I got here. I was like, this is nothing like what I see on the TV, in the movies, completely different. And a lot of that has to do with the circles that I chose to get into. You know, they would say, oh, don't go into this area because it's bad. And they wear blue and they wear red. And if you wear the wrong colors, you're going to get shot and killed. And I'm not saying that I'm walking into the hood acting, mindless. I mean, I'm not gonna be reckless, but I'm also aware that if you're involved in certain things and you're gonna get a lot of trouble because of what you're involved in, um, just keeping an open mind, to me, is at the end of the day is really what it's about, is understanding different cultures. And I love cultures. I love learning about different cultures. And one of the projects that I'm working on right now with school district is we're doing, well, I don't want to get into that yet. I'll wait until that question comes up. But just circling back, Corey, to the representation piece, it's incredibly important and necessary that we continue to switch up the visuals that we're seeing on TV, on media, radio, everything, because our society is incredibly diverse. So it would be,
Yeah.
I think, irresponsible of us who create images, who create audio, who create video to just represent one group of people. That would be irresponsible of us.
That's where uh, I think there's a really interesting element with Pharrell Williams' new biopic that came out,
Or the Lego one.
the Lego one, Piece by Piece. So I don't know if you know this, but in the conversation with Lego, and in that conversation, one of the things he said was, "Hey, Lego, skin tone's an issue here.
Mm,
Like, we all don't, we're not all yellow and, like, hey, can we have some representation here?" And that was part of the conversation of doing the film was, I want you guys as Lego to, you know,
inter-
think about that, be aware of this. And I think, obviously the traditional yellow minifig is done so that way it's,
kind of
doesn't look like
avoids the trouble.
anyone. Yeah, it's,
Right.
but at the same point, in the more recent sets, they've started introducing skin tone. And it's like, well, why are
Mhm.
we doing one skin tone? Why, like,
Right.
there's not just one. Like, and so I, I think part of it is awareness there. And it's, an awesome element that they are expanding on and working through. Um, but your point about, like, if you flip the script on stereotypes and you sort of, as soon as you start to do that and you think through that, you're like, yeah, okay, that would be uncomfortable. And it's like, wait, if that's uncomfortable for me, then, like, wait, okay,
Imagine
yeah,
dealing with it every single day.
exactly. And I think that's where it's like, well, it's not a problem for me because, I don't deal with X, Y, or Z, like whatever that is. So it's not my problem. And
Right.
that, I think, way more than, way more than not, like, that is the mindset behind it. And
Yeah.
so in reality, like, it's your problem, not mine.
Exactly.
And where, to Corey's point earlier about, like, the trailer industry, like, no, it is more like, because that's been perpetuated in the
Exactly.
industry
It
or in
it's my
whatever.
problem, but it was not created by me.
Yeah. Yeah, you have not no control, but you have very little control over changing it necessarily.
And so,
Um,
see, I disagree with that part. I agreed with that for many years, that I have no control. And I am part of a system that is set to set me up for failure, or the whole school to prison pipeline thing. But I think after, let me see, when was it? I think it was after I did my first short video on the Harlem Hellfighters that I started to understand the power that one person can have. One person, no master's degree, not famous, no, million likes or subscribers, but that one 3-minute video that I made raised so much hell that it was like it was the biggest accomplishment to me in my life in 2015, that I could make a 3-minute video that would incite so much hatred in some, but pride in others. And I had to think about that. Why is that? Why is it? I'm not making something up. I'm not, being emotional about a subject. I am literally stating facts from history, from US history. And forming it in a story where I'm saying, here's a group of people who had to overcome these obstacles and they were able to do it. And so I would like to honor them for overcoming these obstacles. In a nutshell, that's what the 3-minute video is about. And
Which is
so
a really good watch, by the way. Yeah.
thank you. I appreciate that. I really do. Um, but to the point of where I disagreed with myself in saying I have no control, I do have control now because I
Yeah.
understand the power of visuals and the perception that I want to put out. When people think of heroes of color now, first thing that many people think of is education, representation, which is great because that's exactly what I want people to think of when they think of the company. Is it's a company that is dedicated to educating, to giving kids. I want to focus on the kids because I want to give them the power to understand that they could advocate for themselves. They can speak up. It's okay. Do it professionally, do it responsibly, but speak up. Don't stay shut. And that's the message that I teach to my kids. And since the kindergarten incident and the second grade incident, many other incidents have happened where a proud parent moment where they stood up and they spoke up and they even questioned their teachers, to the point that, look, this is something that I believe in. So I want to move in this path. Another story with my daughter, she was given an assignment to highlight an American hero, fourth grade. And on the list, nobody was of color. So she said to the teacher, I don't see any people of color on this list. So I'm going to do a person of color. And she did. And I thought that that was the most courageous thing in the world because, you're in the fourth grade. You're very mindful of what you say, who you say it to. Friends are a big thing. Peer pressure is a big thing. None of that mattered to her. What mattered to her was she wants to talk about somebody who looks like her or at least is of a different culture. She wants options, and that taught me a huge lesson all across the board. But the key word is options. So the way I lead my business now is when somebody wants to work with me, I never just give them one price. This is what it is. I give them options. You want to talk to me? You want to get in touch with me? I'll give you options. You know, I think, Corey, you mentioned it earlier about you thought it was like a Jedi moment where you're like, oh, you kind of make it look like they're the ones who came up with the idea. They're the ones that are in control. Well, when you give people options, you're only giving them options that you want. So, and this is something that I talk a lot about on the business side of freelancing is, so if a client says, hey, I want you to design a logo for me, and I design 10 logos and I give you these samples, I'm afraid you might end up picking the worst one. So eliminate that. Create your 10 logos and pick your three favorite, the three strongest ones,
Yep.
present that to them. So there's no way you're going to be disappointed. So options is always a key thing for me is options. It's not definite. You have options.
Right,
That's really
right.
good.
That makes a ton of sense. And I not to drag this point out too much, but I do think that we have some agency. Uh, Not that we can control the outcome necessarily, but we can
Right.
create certain circumstances. So, for example, just on this show, we can make sure that the folks that we're including in the conversation are representative of the community that we're a part of, right?
Exactly.
Um, but it takes awareness,
Yeah.
and it takes a little bit of work. This other show that we do, um, it's on the entertainment advertising industry. I got a call from a very dear friend, and she's become even closer over the last 4 or 5 years. A lady named Dana Flowers, who's now over at Amazon. She was a EVP over at Sony at the time. It was June of 2020. She called me up. She said, "Corey, we could do better." And Dana's the kind of lady who's just like, she is all heart with sharp elbows, you know?
Yes.
And I'm like, "Dana, yes, we can. What are we talking about?" And she goes, "Well, you haven't had me on your show." And I'm like, What time you wanna come on?" You know, like,
What
"What
kind
you wanna"
work?
So Dana comes on and I had other people, from historically marginalized communities on the show, but they are the vast minority in that industry.
Mm.
But one very prominent one, arguably one of the greatest trailer editors of all time, a guy named Skip Chassan, he just wanted to talk about the work. So he wasn't getting into like political issues, social issues. And that's cool. Like, I'll follow your lead kind of a thing. But Dana wanted to talk about it. She wanted to get into it. And I'll tell you what, like within the week after that show, I got a note from a young lady who was going to community college in the South Bay. I forget. I think it was in the Redondo. I forget the name of the school.
Okay.
And she didn't tell me, what if she was black or she was, what she did say that she's a single mom. What she did say was, when I heard Dana's story for the first time, I could see myself in that industry.
Mm.
So I can't necessarily say that putting Dana on and having a conversation with her, I'd talk to her anytime because she's just her story is really encouraging and she knows her stuff. And she's a great guest to have on the show. So, I can't necessarily control what outcomes will come out of that conversation, but you're putting the right ingredients in
Right.
your, in
Right.
your recipe. So I don't know. I do think that we do have, like I said, the point is I do think that we do have some agency.
For
So
sure.
Yeah,
For
that's
sure.
good. Well, I was gonna ask you what your motivation was behind launching Heroes of Color, but I feel like we've definitely covered that.
Yes. We have.
We know why. Um, I do want to transition and talk through Heroes of Color a little bit and sort of what you're doing there, and also some of the entrepreneurs program and what that looks like.
Oh, for sure. So I think Heroes of Color took a turn after COVID, a very positive one. I know many businesses shut down and it was like a nightmare for everybody, but it created opportunities for me, which I'm so grateful for, because essentially what happened was a lot of the workshops, no, I'm sorry, a lot of schools reached out to me asking if I could give a workshop, virtual workshop. I'm like, yeah, sure, of course. So I did a couple here and there. I did a couple for CalArts, COC, and they loved it. So I thought, maybe I can get like some good money from doing this. So I pitched it to other colleges, other universities, and I started getting booked. So now I'm thinking I can really push this education piece now, and not just anything related to diversity, but the two things that I'm really passionate about is, well, diversity, obviously, but also entrepreneurship. Because I felt like when I graduated from college, I was not prepared. And I had no idea how to price my work. People would ask me for custom work. I didn't know how to price it, you know, and I was always struggling. And there's a lot of truth to the stereotype of the starving artist because we're just not prepared. So I did research and I started learning and I started reading books and taking business classes. And I wrote a book called The Freelance Hustle, which basically just it's a path of my journey from 1996 up until about 2020, and all of the things that I have encountered, all of my lived experiences of things that helped me, things that hurt me, and just suggestions for freelancers, artists in general, who want sustainability in their careers in the arts, because most parents will tell their kids it's a great hobby, but you need to get a real job. And I understand where that fear comes from. It's a real fear. So, my number one advice for any artist is take business classes, like learn the business side of it, because you will be able to see the difference between um, like actually making a career or just making ends meet. So entrepreneurship became my thing during COVID. And once everybody started going back to in person, I took my 1 week workshops, my 1 day workshops, and I started expanding them into programs where now it's a 6 week program. And I started learning the vocabulary. I started spending time on school websites and seeing how they phrase things and enrichment programs and servicing this community. Um, then I had to learn how are they funded. So when I created proposals, I had to use their language. I had to understand their language. So I really took this business thing seriously, man. And it just completely transformed my life. And now when I get opportunities to speak to students, Of course they want to hear about Disney. They want to hear about like, all the artwork and all the cool stuff and exhibiting, which is great. But I'm like, take it the next step, take it a step further. If you want to do this, one of the things that you're really going to have to master is the art of pivoting because things will not go your way. I can, that's probably the only guarantee that I can give you in the art industry is you will not get your way all the time. So if you don't get your way, how can you find another way to get there? What is another path you can take? What's another road you can take? So I love animation and I thought I wanted to be an animator until I understood that what I really want to do is tell stories. It doesn't matter if I'm the one creating it, as long as I'm the one who is writing it. So I have other people help me create animation now, with these workshops and these programs. I can't be in all the classrooms at the same time. So I hire other people who have a shared vision of education to lead these workshops, and that's how my business went from a solopreneur to 16 employees now. And
Okay.
it didn't happen overnight.
Yeah.
You take a lot of risks. There is a lot of risk involved. And I can tell you firsthand, the very first program that I rolled out in the school district in San Diego was a complete nightmare because it was the first time I did it. I made a million and one mistakes, but I learned from it and I kept going. And through the grace of God, this school district believed so much in what I was doing that they were willing to give us another shot. And now this is our third year there. And
That's
things are
awesome.
running smoothly. And it's been a great experience. But all of that to say, the importance of teaching entrepreneurship is so close to my heart that one of my favorite programs, one that I call the Junior Artrepreneurs, is the one that got accepted into the William S. Hart School District starting in the spring. It was a pilot to four schools: Saugus, Hart, um, I'm blanking on the names. Oh, La Mesa Junior High School, and I forget the fourth one. But it went so well that so it was a 6-week program. We taught them how to customize hats, skateboard decks, sneakers, canvases, all this cool stuff. And then we held an art exhibition where they got to sell their merch at in the aquatic water center, that center
Yep.
they have there. Um, it was great. It was this huge exhibition hall. Spectrum came out and covered the story, and Good Day LA covered the story, and we were able to showcase the amazing work that these kids were doing. But more so, there were some other things that happened that I couldn't plan for, which was we were helping these kids build their confidence. We were helping parents see where their children's interests lie and how they could further support them. We were helping kids break out of their shell because part of the class is not just you painting. We teach business, we teach marketing, we teach oral presentation, get up in front and talk about this. We do role playing scenarios where we purposely put them in uncomfortable situations so that they can learn to navigate. How do I get out of the situation? And like I said, these results you can't measure with a rule stick. These are things that parents were coming up to me telling me, "Oh my God, I'm seeing a completely new child. She talks now. She doesn't lock herself in the room. She actually is talking about business. She wants to buy a new phone, so she's thinking of ways that she can earn money." And I'm like, that's it. This is it. Even if you decide you don't want to be an artist, these are skills that will follow you for the rest of your life because more importantly, they're starting to see their self-worth and value. And you can't measure that.
Yeah. Yeah, and those are the soft skills that, like, as a business owner, like, man, can you problem solve? Can you figure that stuff out? Like, I serve on the Career and College Readiness, Advisory Council for the Heart District, and so I literally, like, what, 2 weeks ago or 3 weeks ago, we had a call, and those are the types of things that, like, all the business owners are like, "Man, can they problem solve? Are they comfortable in front of people? Are they" but those are the soft skills that sadly oftentimes, like you said, they're not measurable. Like,
Yeah.
okay, can you take an exam and answer these 10 questions and like 10 math problems and like, did you get them all right? Like, that's easy
Right.
because we can easily put a grade on it. But
Yeah.
oftentimes, those are the types of classes, like you're talking about, these entrepreneur or art entrepreneur type classes are the ones that like get forgotten because it's not easily measurable. And so sadly, like we just don't want to do it because
Yeah.
it's not easy to quantify and it's not easy to put on an annual report. I think all like everything you're doing with that is so cool. And there's so much more like between, I'm on your Amazon art author page, which you have a book, another book, it looks like coming out in May of 25. Um, and so there's so much more with inside of the Heroes of Color stuff that you're doing, and between what you're doing in the school districts, the animated episodes that you have, which I've seen a few of those, which are really cool.
Thank you.
So where can people find out more about what you're doing, and connect with you online?
Absolutely. So heroesofcolor.com, HEROES of color.com. I don't really do social media that much as I used to. I do spend more time on LinkedIn now just because my demographic has changed. I think my focus has changed. So therefore, I'm very intentional about where I'm spending my time at all. If at all, LinkedIn has become a really good source for me because I get a lot of inspiration from just seeing other professionals, and just seeing the obstacles that others have been able to overcome, their resiliency, their persistence feeds me. So I stop spending time on platforms that just show me negativity or hate, or just mindless stuff. You know what I mean? Yeah, we all need to laugh every now and again, but I don't want any of that to influence me. I'm not so easily influenced, but if it's something that I really believe in, I'm very easily influenced. And so LinkedIn has shown me a lot of very positive stories. And I'm one of those people that have, I'm trying to get a contract with a school, but you get the contract, dude, I'm happy for you. Like, that's amazing. I'm glad that you got that. I'll learn from that. You know, that's who I want to be around. And so my circle has gotten smaller and smaller and smaller to the point that I can probably count my close friends in one hand. And I'm okay with that. I'm okay with that because I know that everybody who's around me wants me to win and I want them to win. And I think that is one of the major keys to success is surrounding yourself with people that are like-minded, and don't busy themselves with foolishness. You know what I mean? Like just I don't want to get into that topic, but yeah, surround yourself with positive people. It makes a very big difference. Very big difference.
That's really good. Well, as we wrap up, do you have any questions for Corey or I?
I'd say the biggest question that I have is what are some of the characteristics that make the people that you interview, like, what are some of the characteristics that make you like, wow, we need to interview this person because of X, Y, and Z? Like, what are some of the things that stand out for you before you reach out to somebody?
That's good. So for me, there's a few things. One, when I'm looking at someone's like LinkedIn, so first off, Voices of Business is a Santa Cruz Valley Chamber of Commerce podcast. And so we are targeting chamber members,
Right.
specifically. So inside of that, element, I look at two things. One, like, do you have sort of an interesting background? Like, careers, there are careers like yours, 90% of what you've done, if you read your LinkedIn, it's almost entirely in the arts. Like
Yeah.
there's, some of that, there's some teaching there, there's some of that. So it follows one career path, which is fine, but there's diversity in that career path that's going to have an interesting story. Looking at your website, looking at some of the interviews you've already done, some of the ones you were talking about and alluding to, I've listened to already, and there's so much passion in what you're doing where, like, my question about, like, what led you to start Heroes of Color? Like, I don't even have to ask that question because if someone's listening to the podcast and they've gotten that far, like, they better know or they haven't been listening. And so for me, I think that's part of it. Like, there's business owners who I see at a chamber event, and I'm like, "So what do you do?" And they're like, make blue widgets." I'm like, got it. And you hate your job and you hate what you do. Um, cool. Can you tell me more about that? And they're like,
Not
they're
really.
blue. Like,
moving right along.
Anything else? And they're like, nope. Great. Have a good day. Like those are the podcast interviews that would last all about 10 minutes. Um, and no one would listen to. And so, that's not to say that they're a bad business owner. That's not to
Right.
say anything. Like oftentimes, honestly, there are some industries that don't need to have someone who has that level of confidence, who's outgoing, who like as an entrepreneur, especially in the art space, like you have to be able to adapt. You have to be outgoing. You have to have some of those different qualities. Like you just have to, or you would more or less die in the industry. Like, but there are some industries like that you don't. And so I get it.
Right.
And people, that's also to say like people have found their right industry and that's
Exactly.
great.
Exactly.
So yeah. Anyway,
How about
Corey,
you,
is there
Corey?
anybody for you? You're muted. Yeah. Tech
I d
anyone
see,
anyone who can't deal with technology.
I did that. Yeah, I did that. The gray hair just requires me to do that at least once or twice during anyway, so podcasting is such, a unique medium because it allows for human connection. It allows
Mm,
for a level of intimacy that other platforms don't really lend themselves as fully to.
right.
So when I'm talking to someone, can they tell a story? Because at the end of the day, we're still storytelling creatures and we
Yeah.
connect not just to individual data points on a resume or of a person's background or whatever, but we connect to other stories, right? So what this allows us to do is it allows us to sit around a table, a virtual table in this case,
Mm,
and then the listeners are at that table with us if we are having a candid conversation, a human connected conversation, right? So I look for elements of that in a guest. Are they willing to do that? Um, and what I was saying before is I also try to have some sort of end in mind.
mm,
What those other people that aren't vocal participants in the conversation, but are listeners, they are participants in the conversation, right?
sure.
And will they be able to connect? Will they be edified? Will they be informed? Will they be inspired? Or will they see themselves in the
Right.
speaker, right?
Right.
Because if you could connect to someone's story, then you can see your own story being taking that next step in your own story, right?
For
So
sure.
those are some of the things that I want to achieve in doing and having these conversations, to edify and inspire others, or if nothing else, just to entertain them with the guy with the gray hair forgot to turn off mute. Um, I will say also at the same time, what I try to eliminate before it enters in. I had a experience just recently where I was I'm collaborating with some folks on another show that we do, and they encouraged me to ask this person, a certain person, to come on the show, and I had reservations because I know, let's just say, he's not my cup of tea.
Gotcha.
He has a proclivity to, among other things, take credit for things that he had nothing to do with. So
Oh,
I
yeah.
was worried that some other people in the industry would call me and be like, "Corey, what are you doing, man? I did that, whatever." So I call. And he also has a tendency to make himself. Uh, how can I put it? Make himself the bride at every wedding and the corpse at every funeral. You know those kind of people. So
Needs that attention.
yeah, so I hit him up. I'm like, "Hey, man, you wanna be on the show?" And he's like, "Oh, well, I could never do that. I just don't like talking about myself." And I just, like, spit out my coffee. I'm like, "Dude, have you ever met you?"
That's
You know?
amazing.
I like talking about myself.
Yeah. So,
Uh,
I mean, lesson learned. Like, I had a hunch about this dude, and, what I don't want to do is, platform someone that has a completely different set of order of priorities than I do, or an order of priorities that I can't advocate for.
yeah.
So to your point, of you said it in a few different ways in our conversation here, is that being clear on, what your own boundaries are, you
Yeah.
know? So those are some of the things. Being able to tell a story, having a level of intimate connection so that we can we can have these other nonverbal participants in the conversation see themselves be
Yeah.
informed and inspired, while at the same time being okay with like, okay, that's cool. You can be part of plenty of other conversations, but not this one,
Right.
kind of
Right.
thing. Having proper boundaries. So those are some of the things that come to mind for me.
The
That's
one
awesome.
thing, Corey, as you're talking about that, the one thing, like I had a podcast at the beginning of COVID, we all were inside, no one could do anything. And I was like, I
In the
need to talk
bunker.
to, I need to talk to people. And so I literally just started talking to business owners. And one of the guys I had on the show was they were an insulation company. And so like when a new apartment building went up, they would come in and put all the insulation in the walls. And he was like, "Oh, I'd love to be on the show." And I was like, that is gonna be the most boring episode in the world, but you know what? I'm open to having the conversation, and so I hopped on. It turns out, like, this guy's background and his story and, like, his LinkedIn was, like, owner of this company, and that was it, and I was like, there was no information online about this guy, and so ended up being an incredible interview, incredible conversation, a ton of stuff to, pull from that, but and so I think, like, at one point, I look at it going, okay, do I make an assumption about someone going, you're not going to be a good guest? Um, and is that something that like, I've done that. And I went into that conversation going, this might be one of those episodes that whoops got deleted. But it was really good.
Wow.
And on the flip side, I've had the opposite happen.
Right.
Where I was
Right.
like, I reached out to someone going, I think you'd be amazing. And I drug them in. And
Oh,
then
it wasn't amazing.
it was bad. Oh man.
Well, I just want to say, Josh and Corey, I just want to thank you for reaching out to me and just giving me an opportunity to share some of my experiences and allow me to share my passion. Because as you mentioned, I am definitely passionate about what I do, but I think over the years I've learned that I'm more purposeful and intentional about what I do. And so I'm led more by purpose than I am by passion these days. And I just want to thank you for recognizing that and just, giving me another chance to talk about it.
Yeah. No, it's great. I'm glad to get to know you. I hope we continue the conversation, whether it's over a coffee or, at a
Sure.
chamber event or just hanging out. And, while I'm thinking about it, if you have recommendations for other community leaders, business leaders, or just,
Mhm.
folks who inspire you, don't hesitate to drop us a line and say, hey, this might be a really good idea to talk to this person.
They need to
Yep.
be a chamber member, though, right?
Yeah.
Okay. Perfect.
Hey,
Yeah. Yeah.
a great reason for them to join the chamber
There you
though.
go. There you go.
Although I've adopted the, with our chamber partners, I've adopted the, better to ask forgiveness than permission sometimes.
Oh, yes.
Yeah, I get to hear about those. Uh,
You're welcome. Anyway, this is great. David, this is
Thank
awesome.
you. Thank
Josh,
you.
always great hanging out with you, man. Um,
likewise.
and as always, please follow, rate, and review us wherever you get your podcasts. You can find us at The Voices of Business on social. Joshua, what's the best way to find you online?
LinkedIn or my agency 95 Visual. We're
Awesome.
around. Yep.
Awesome. And you can follow me at Corey S. Nathan. That's at Coreys, as in Sam, Nathan, at Corey S. Nathan. We'd love to have you and other business leaders join in on the conversation. Thanks again for listening. We'll see you next time on The Voices of Business.